And now we're back. I don't know how that happened. Good morning. Well, I do know how it happened. I'm driving the bus. Good morning, everybody. I'm Abby Haggard. This is my tiny corner of the world. We have a bit of a warm thing going on. We had a bit of a kitchen disaster yesterday. And I know you're not surprised that I may have had a kitchen disaster yesterday if you know anything about my background. After all, Valerie Privet and I come from the same stock. All right, before we begin, cheers. I'm drinking some lovely regular ground roast with some hot chocolate sprinkled in it. Let me know what you're having. Okay, so a curious set of things has begun to unfold that I've noticed around me. And I'm a military brat. And for those of you who haven't lived that life, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Well, good morning, Eddie, and good morning, Maggie. I had a small disaster yesterday in which the supporting thingamafoosit, you open a cupboard and there's a shelf. Yes, and the shelf is supported by those little plastic thingamafoosits. Yes. Well, the one that had all of my pots and pans and assorted heavy things crashed yesterday. And the noise itself could have, good morning, Charles. How nice to see you. Loud crash. I was in the middle of writing and editing, so I'm far away in a distant land, and suddenly, boom. And then when I poked my head out of the office, nothing looked wrong, which is terrifying. Nothing's wrong? How can nothing be wrong? What was that noise? Two molecules colliding? What? Zigged when they should have zagged. I looked all over the apartment, couldn't find it. So then later, I opened the cupboard to reach for, and there it is, and it's all upended and everything's skewed sideways. So now we have a cushion on the floor and we're on our knees and we're pulling stuff out of it. It's a corner, those corner cabinets that you say to yourself, the guy who designed this has never used one, where it's the door opens in an accordion and you have to wonkle in to get stuff, and it's not a lazy Susan, so it doesn't turn to help you. Yes, well, that top thing crashed. Nothing broke. Thank you. Nothing broke. However, my shower in my spare bathroom, the well in my shower is now full of an assortment of cooking utensils and items and weapons of mass construction. And I have a table in the hallway beside my kitchen that looks like a food truck without the wheels under it, because I've got everything else. So after my video today, I'm going to go down and say, hello, could we get me one of those? And could somebody come and do that? Because I do not think that unless it was gunpoint or a fire, I don't think I could pretzel myself into that cupboard or successfully exit, having done the first. So we will see what happens. So that was a little off-putting, because now today, every normal step I take is a thing. Have I used my later folder? I'm on the second one to get to the toxic stuff out of my head. And I'll explain that in a second too. So all that aside, sorry, the later folder, for those of you who don't know, the later folder is an invention of mine that invites me to write down anything that upset me, draw a line under it, close the folder, pat the little cover, because I will deal with it later. And now my head is clear, my energy is clear, my heart is clear, and I can carry on with my day without lugging all of that toxic baggage. At the end of the day, I can look and check things off and say, did it, got it, got to deal with that. And it clears my head and my heart immediately. So we'll talk about that more a little later. Anyway, before I continue, I want to tell you something very interesting that occurred to me. I was having a conversation with one of my longtime clients, Susan, who is lovely. And at one point, in our conversation, she said, I still can't decide whether got it, forgot it, got it is my favorite thing, or my code word to calm myself down. And I said, oh, well, how wonderful is that? And tell me why you can't decide. And she said, because I beat myself up when I forget things. And what I'm grateful to you for is reminding me that everything is an ebb and a flow. And if I forgot it, I'll remember it. And I'll carry on. Forgot it, got it. Got it, forgot it, got it. It's an ebb and a flow. And I am not a terrible human being. I said, no, you're a human being. We are all flawed. We just have different flaws. And she said, yes. And I'm very grateful for that. And then I said, and tell me why you love your code word so much. So the code word, it's like a safe word, but it's not a safe word for your little kids to say when they're in danger. It's a reminder word for us, for the little kid inside us, when we get caught up in that toxic stuff and we forget in the moment that we have the later folder, and we're wound tight and we're spinning and we're not making any sense whatsoever. And we don't notice it when we're in it, because we're in it. It takes someone else to say, hey, what's got you all tied up? Nothing. Why do you ask? Why do you always, and they say, well, because of that. And I've always said to close friends of mine, when I get into that state, because I have, and I do, usually right before a show, I say to people, just come over, say nothing, and put your hand on the top of my head. Not heavy, just put it there. And because, that feels ridiculous. It looks ridiculous and it feels ridiculous. And when somebody does it, you say, what are you doing? You say, I'm stopping your spinning. Because we are wound up like a little top, like a child's toy. And so how can we do it without walking around all day or driving? Can you imagine getting pulled over and the policeman says, why do you have your hand on top of your head? You say, because I'm spinning and I'm trying to stop? No, they'll take you away in the padded vehicle. So what does it mean if you can't do that yourself? It means you need a code word. And it's a code word that you alone know. Now, Susan is very silly. And I said, it really helps to have the silly word. And when you go on a rant and you reach out to me, all I need to do is say the word over and over and over and over until you hear me, and then it makes you laugh because it's such a silly word. And it's even sillier when you hear me say it over and over and over, calmly, like it's making any sense. And the reason I do that is because it works, because it cuts through the internal loop tape we not only have in our head, but we've got it on warp speed, full volume, and nothing else can get through. But in the breathing between the self, you're an idiot, you hear me say the word, and it distracts you. It disrupts the momentum. And if it's a silly enough word, it makes you grin. And the practical purpose of the grin, of the laugh, is that is a positive endorphin. That gets you to breathe properly. That gets your shoulders to relax. That gets you back in charge of what's going on. These things are very important, especially when we're dealing with way too much of a muchness, and many of us are. So that's my introduction for this morning. So Charles, you're having breakfast and a glass of tea, and you've not been doing well lately, Charles. On a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling? Let me know. Let us know. We all want to know. Sorry for the slurp. So today I'm talking about lions and jackals. And my use of the Lions and the Jackals in the Pivotry book collection and in the lessons that I give and the teaching that I give. And by the way, I want to mention you, Eddie, in a second. The lion within us is our best self. I don't mean it's the day we won the medal. I mean, it's the day we show up. It's the day we show up, we're grateful, we get up, we make the bed, we do our thing, we make our coffee, we hug our loved one, we pat the dog, feed the chickens, milk the cows, and head off out into the world. That's the lion. That is the person we have chosen to be, and we choose to be every day. And sometimes we're a great big lion, and sometimes we're just an everyday lion. And all we're doing is the best we are. We're not chasing rainbows. We're not conquering mountains. We're showing up. We're getting it done. And we're doing it with joy, with anticipation, with a smile on our face that we have a place to live, a roof over our head, and people who smile when they see us. These are the human basic needs. We need to feel safe. We need to feel sheltered. We need to feel cared for. We need to feel that what we bring matters, not only to ourselves, but to others. We don't have to conquer a world. We don't have to rush off in search of. I have a friend who says, I wish I could travel. I would preach. And I said, you don't need to travel to preach. That's what the internet is for. That's what the friends at the local coffee shop are for. Preaching, though, is a two-way street. Sometimes people just need the silence together, and the prayers are heard that way and shared that way. We don't always need to be given lessons. Sometimes we need to feel connected. And this friend of mine said, I hadn't thought of it that way. And I said, your calling is not to teach. Your calling is to be among. Teaching by example has greater impact than lecturing. Because we can forget words, but we can't forget how it felt to be included, how it felt to be cared about, how it feels when we're really low and feeling lonely. And there's someone who reaches out every time, every day. No big deal. They just check in. They're not doing it selflessly. They're not doing it exclusively for us. They're doing it for them because we matter to them. We change their lives. And then they are grateful because we allow them to change ours. This is what the lion effect is. It is coming together. It is being part of. And when we're in a toxic place, when we're in a toxic world, there are so many jagged bits, misunderstandings, fear and uncertainty making us hang back and reluctant to believe in each other and ourselves. This is not a preach. This is how we navigate our life's waters. Every day when I get on the elevator in my building, I am so grateful that I do not have to climb up and down all those stairs. Every day I'm grateful because, boy, there's a lot of stairs. And I am blessed to be in a place where not only are there elevators, they work. This is a thing. This matters. There are people who don't have food. I have food and elevators. I have a broken cupboard, but we're going to deal with that. And so when we look at a glass and somebody says, do you see it half full or half empty? It's irrelevant. Is there something in the glass? Is it for me? Would I like more? These are the questions. Can I have more? These are the questions. It's not poor me. Well, they got more. It's that I have some. I have some too. May I have more? What would you like me to do? If we climb down off the horses and we remember that we are lions together, we ebb and we flow together, it's a whole bunch easier. And the other animal I'm talking about today, I call them the jackals. And it comes from the story, coffee with vanilla, half and half. Mm-mm. Good morning, Scott. Sounds yummy, Eddie. So the jackals are not the animals in the Serengeti from the Lion and the Jackals imagery. I use that imagery because it's so familiar to all of us. The jackals are our inner weaknesses. Kat has to be an archaeologist. We're going through a bunch in the past 2 weeks, not too good. You'll catch up. Thank you. Give Kat a hug for me and a hug for you. Be safe. I love you guys. So the jackals are the qualities that work against us. A lot of them are inside. When I was talking to Maggie the other day, I said, we want to give these jackals a clear definition. So when we're talking to your people who want to understand what it is you are doing your diagnostics for, what we are alerting to, what we are defining, first of all for ourselves, then for our clients, and then for everyone, are the red flags that become so familiar we ignore them. So we talked about it quite some time, and we came up with 5 jackals. And the first one is ignorance. And the second one out of ignorance is incapacity. And the third one, also out of the first 2, is indifference. And the fourth one is intention. And the fifth one is integrity. Now, the degree to which we possess those qualities, the degree to which we give in to impulses that are selfish, impulses that do not provide support, that leave people hanging, that don't care, so there. We are breaking apart our basic essential strength. The human is not the strongest creature, not even in terms of wisdom. The human is strong when the humans come together and collaborate, not when they separate, not when they try to divide and conquer. It doesn't work. It never has. So the conversation today, the story today about the jackals, is that the jackals are not always on the outside. They're not always nipping at our heels. Picture yourself as a lion. It's going to be a very warm day today. Picture yourself as a lion in the Serengeti. There's not a lot of shade and it is really hot and you're really hot and you don't have the energy, and a jackal comes over and nips at your toes. And the lion cubs come over and nip at your toes. And all you really have the energy to do is swat your tail back and forth. And they jump because what's the lion going to do? But they come back and try again. And if all you do is swat your tail, the jackals say, there's no one guarding. There's no one in charge. That means we get to do whatever we want. We get to drive this bus today. And all of a sudden, we are doing things that are less than who we are, less than what we believe, less than truly matters to us. And then the next layer of jackals come in, the shame and the blame and the guilt and all that stuff. And it doesn't take long before we have forgotten one really important thing. Why we came, why we're here today. What is our purpose? What is it that we do? Why do we get up in the morning? Whose lives do we change in some small way? I'm not saying that we change the world, but if we hold the elevator door for someone carrying packages, we've made their day. If we see them coming and we just let the door close and we look them in the eye, That's frivolous and pointlessly selfish and cruel. And if we ride up or down in the elevator after we've done that and we say, that'll teach them, who, who does it teach what? And why? How did that possibly serve us, you? And the answer is it didn't. The answer is it's a jackal, diminishing our strength, diminishing who we are. The jackals are within us. The jackals are our incomplete sides. Back in the day, the very long ago day, when all we had was one brain and all that brain ever learned to do was keep us alive, we only really lived between two poles, life, death. And the goal was to stay alive, to survive. Nothing more, nothing less. Everything else, later, that'll be gravy. That'll be at the end of the day when we're all safe. In the meantime, it's fight or flee or die. Our lives aren't like that anymore. We have something remarkable that I'm going to talk about in greater length on Thursday. We have something I call door number 3. And I have known about door number 3 for as long as I can remember. I don't even think it was taught to me. I think it was me staring at a problem and not liking either option. Me with no navigators or map or compass, looking there and saying, I'm doing it this way. And it became my life. Yes, of course I do it the right way or the left way or the up or the down way when it's instructed. But quite often it's not. And quite often it's the innovative thought, the pioneer within that says, that looks interesting. Let's give it a try. An incredibly famous, brilliant man named Sir Ken Robinson talks about children and education and creativity. And he says, the wonderful thing about kids is that they'll give it a go, right? Kids will give it a go. They'll give it a try. When they get it wrong, they may cry, but in the first place, they'll give it a go. And that curiosity, that no idea there might be consequences, is where their magic, where their genius is. And it's inside all of us until we manage to squash it. Until somehow, somewhere along the way, a little inner jackal has said, oh, you can't do that. What will people think? And gradually over time, we just no longer try. Ken Robinson tells a wonderful story. I've told it many times. The first time he told it, I laughed. I replayed the video to watch him tell it because the telling was genius. He had been a very successful soccer player, and there was a great future in store for him. One night he went to sleep, woke up in the morning paralyzed, and his family and the hospital discovered that he had contracted polio late in the stages of polio. And he said, fortunately, we'd all then discovered that I was intelligent, so I went back to school, and I kept learning, and learning became his passion. And he said, there's this story, this friend of his, a teacher who taught drawing classes. And she came to him and she said, the most remarkable thing today. She said, I gave them an assignment to draw anything they wanted at their desk. And there's this one little girl who would never do anything. She wouldn't sit still. She wouldn't pay attention. She wouldn't obey any instructions. And I suddenly realized that she was sitting there drawing, industriously focused on the task. I was amazed. So I walked quietly around the classroom and I came up behind her and I saw that she was drawing a face. And I came up to her and I said, Well, that's very interesting. And she said, thanks. And she kept drawing. And she said, who are you drawing? And she said, I'm drawing the face of God, miss. And the teacher said, well, nobody knows what God looks like. And the little girl said, they will in a minute. And I think that little girl in the story is my alter ego. I think she switches out between Calvin and Hobbes. I think the three of them rotate inside me. They will in a minute. They'll know a thing no one has known in a minute when I'm done. Was her take, and should be our take, and can be our take if we choose to believe in it. The thing I was about to say to, yes, childlike curiosity is what makes children so endearing. Fortunately, I have childlike curiosity. I'm not sure that it's endearing, but I keep at it. So the thing that I wanted to say to you, Eddie, in front of everyone is, Scott, the thing I wanted to say in front of everyone today, Eddie, was last year when you had your crisis and you were doing so many things to make something completely broken continue to work. And you diligently pushed that stone up that hill. And at one point, I asked you why you were doing it. And I asked you what you thought your responsibility was. And we had long conversations about that, because it wasn't that you were vastly different from everyone. It's that we take on responsibilities that are not ours to own when other people do not show up. And this is the extraordinary hidden layer about jackals, is that sometimes we use other people's jackals as our excuse to not take care of our own. Sometimes we feel that we have a calling that is bigger than us. And sometimes we're right. More often, what we're really doing is looking over there at that distant horizon before we've cleaned ours up. That's exciting. That's new. That's different. This is familiar. This is ho-hum. This is every day. And the reason I think it's so important to bring it up is this. We are in a relationship with ourselves every day. When we were born, we were assigned a person. Here you go. I was assigned Abby. Eddie was assigned Eddie. Maggie was assigned Maggie. Charles was given Charles. Scott was handed Scott. And our first primary job is to take care of our person, because they're always with us. And when we forget that that is our primary purpose, to make sure that our person is safe, fed, healthy, not afraid, protected, encouraged, supported. When we forget that that is our job, our purpose, when we say, I have to do that every day, I have to do that again? Yes. Why? Because this is your person. Why do I have to feed the dog again? I fed him yesterday. Well, let's not give you food today and see how you grasp the math. We look at the distant, different, exciting, and we say, that looks like more fun. And all it is new. We don't understand until somebody teaches us. We have to be taught this. Our responsibility begins here. In the trajectory of our lives, it begins here. And at the other side of our lives, it's still here. It's our responsibility. Who we are, who we meet, who we engage, who we transform, who we shape along the way are chapters. Exciting, exhilarating. They're not the book. We are the book. They are the plot twists. Sometimes they're exciting. Sometimes they're annoying. Sometimes they're repetitive. And we get to fix it. Why do we get to fix it? Because we own the weapon of mass construction. We are the authors. We hold the pen. There are lions and jackals in our lives every day. Is it our life? Yes. Do we get to choose who we prioritize? Yes. Do we get to choose how we police our boundaries? Yes. Do we get to choose who we say yes and no and thank you to? Do we get to choose to stay or walk away? Yes. I received a phone call from someone who had hired me to do a job, who then told me that I had another job. And I said, well, I may not be available. We have to work out the details. And they were gobsmacked. Listen, I'm giving you a job. And I said, well, you're offering me a job. I may not be able to take it. It's a two-way street. And they were furious with me because they had assumed that in their world of exchange, what they wanted mattered most. And it's happening all around us. I don't want to go on about this too much today because there's more of it on Thursday. People are becoming more and more self-centered. I want this for me. Who cares about you? That comes of spending a lot of time alone, a lot of time not sharing, a lot of time doing things we think on our terms. All of a sudden, when we are in need of help, we're surprised that people aren't rushing to our rescue. That individual who gave me a job was a great job. He did a pretty good job. Everybody enjoyed it. Everybody said so. I enjoyed it. That didn't give that individual the right to assume that anytime they called, I would immediately jump and say, oh yes, I'll make that my priority. And they were not impressed. And they said, you know, there are other people. And I said, that's right, there are. And that's an important thing for us both to realize. And there was a silence on the phone. I said, it's a lovely talk. I have to go. I'm working right now. And I hung up the phone. And why did I do that? Why did I end the call? The answer was that it was not a conversation. It was someone issuing orders to someone who had not signed up to obey. I did not enlist. Believe me, I've been a military kid for a long time. I am very slow to enlist because I understand the outcomes. So today in this conversation about the lions and the jackals, today in this conversation about our strengths, we are allowed to be human, thank goodness, because after all, we are allowed to make mistakes. We are invited to try, fall down, get back up again. We are, in the words of Ken Robinson, invited to give it a go. What's the worst that can happen? We get to do it again. Every time I walk by the kitchen, I have the feeling the toaster and the microwave are saying, is she coming in? Their eyes look a little wide. Sometimes I walk by and say, not just now, fellas, stand down, stand easy. I walk away and I imagine I hear little sighs of relief. The kitchen and I it's a complicated relationship. So my conversation to the CEOs among us, the chief executive officers of our lives, our careers, and our corporations is, who are your lions? Who are your jackals? Take a moment, get out your later folder, ask yourself that question. And later, when you have time, give yourself permission to consider that. What are your lion qualities? What are your strengths? What is your superpower? You know, that thing that people say, how do you do that? You know, the best thing about a superpower is that it's transferable. We figure out exactly what you're great at, and we can find 10 other careers that you can do that same thing in. It's just called something different. I have reshaped and re-navigated people as like a pilot officer docking one of those big cruise ships. I have navigated people into fresh, new waters more times than I can count. And it's all about your superpowers. Your superpowers are your lion effect. The jackals are the uncertainties and the indecisions and the what ifs. And those come from stories we've heard or imagined for years and years and years. We've heard them so long and so often, we have forgotten to ask, are they true? Are those stories true? Or do I feel they need to be true to keep me anchored here? These are questions to identify the jackals lurking in the shadows. Now, I have something I want to share with you that I will start repeating at the end of every ABCAST now. If you are ready, when you are ready, if you send me a message on whichever platform you're seeing this, if you reach out in any way you can find me, and you share my code word, I will make you an amazing offer to coach you that you will not be able to resist. All you have to do is type or say the code word, and we will discuss our shared gift. Is that fair? Is that fair? Okay. The code word is magic. And the reason the code word is magic is because it's who we are. All right? Now, if you want to find out what it's like to have me coach you, Eddie Fleiss is on my shows as often as he can spare the time. Maggie is here. Susan is often here. If you say, so, is it worth my investment? Is it worth my time? When they can, when they have the time, they will tell you. And I'm not even weighing in on what they're allowed to say. Is that fair? Because this is the time in our lives when people are feeling fractured. They're feeling separated. They're feeling isolated. They're feeling alone. They're feeling lonely. They're feeling frustrated, exhausted. No one seems to care. No matter how hard they work, the work is never done. And that's not how it's supposed to be. This is not a need to overthrow everything, burn it to the ground and begin again. No. This is the moment when we build our shared lion effect. When we understand who we are and the value we bring. When we understand everyone has jackals. And we can share with each other the best ways to see them and say no to them. Together. What do you think? Pretty cool, huh? All right. I'm going to love you and leave you for the moment because I have to go and get somebody to fix a cupboard. Did I mention I have a cupboard that's broken? Did I mention I have stuff all over my kitchen that I wasn't planning to cook? So until I see you on Thursday, be good to you. You deserve it. The lions within deserve it. And remember to hug your loved ones because they deserve it too. I had an email yesterday that said my videos last week on LinkedIn reached 1,506 people. And I thought, well, thank you. And it's not even my birthday. So thank you, LinkedIn. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, Facebook. Thank you, everyone. Because when you're here with me, nothing can stop us. Thank you for watching. Thank you for making this what it has become. I'll catch you next.